Let me call the County Ventura Campaign Finance Ethics Committee meeting to order. Ms. Jones, a member of the committee, has not shown up yet. If she comes in, we'll include her. Mr. Williams, I've noted your request to speak, but I thought if it's all right with you, I'd put it down to 8A and B, which is the first of your items, which is...
I had signed up for public comment too, Your Honor.
All right, we'll get to that. You realize that there's a time limitation in speaking on this.
Yeah, I got that down pretty good now.
Okay. Your reputation precedes you.
I seen that in the revised agenda.
So anyway, calling the meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is the agenda review. Any suggestions for revision or inclusion of new items from anybody on this commission? Moving on, number 2 is commission members' comments. Any commission members have any comments at all? Number 3, public comments. Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Carol Dean Williams, 61-year resident of Ventura. I would like to speak to Section 1262 of Ordinance 4322. Since I have filed 3 complaints, and I'd like to just call this to your attention. The purpose of this ordinance is to promote public trust in governmental institutions and the electoral process, reduce the appearance of corruption, and to prevent individuals or organizations from using their financial strength to corrupt Ventura County government. Finally, to further these purposes, this ordinance provides full and fair enforcement of all its provisions. That's the ordinance that you operate under, and I'll reserve my other comments to the specific items. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 4 is the approval of the minutes of the last meeting. Any suggestions or comments? And if not, is there a motion?
I move to approve. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any opposition? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Approve the minutes. Number 5, informational items. Expiration of my term on June 30th. Any comments on that? Is this just informational?
Chair Peck and Commission members, this is an informational item to alert you that the Chair's term, Judge Peck's term, will be up on June 30th as per the current ordinance. You're not allowed to serve more than 2 years for reappointment to a second term. We have notified the 2nd District Supervisor who made the original appointment for Judge Peck's position on the commission that the term is expiring. She is aware of it. She had asked if there was a way to reappoint the judge, and I did inform the supervisor that per the current ordinance that would not be possible. However, that does not mean that the board could not entertain an amendment to the ordinance, and we have contacted the authors of the ordinance, Supervisors Bennett and Long, to see if they have any thoughts or comments in that regard, and we have not heard anything back, but we just wanted to alert you to that. And Judge Peck, you would continue to serve until such time as a new appointee has been made.
Any other comments? Observations?
Who replaces? How are you?
It's replaced by, I think, are there 3 names are
Correct,
suggested,
yes.
And by a person who that's his job, and it's, right now I think it's Judge Haddon, isn't it? Judge Haddon.
Judge Haddon is the independent selector for this commission.
And you give 3 names.
The 3 names are actually provided by the supervisor. So in this case, it would be Supervisor Linda Parks would provide 3 names for the independent selector's consideration, and then the independent selector makes a recommendation to the full Board of Supervisors, and that then goes forward to the board for their approval.
Okay.
And may I ask, is there a willingness on your part to serve if?
I've been asked that, and I've ducked the question so far. I'll let the process take its own course. I'm not a part of that. Numbers, any more on that item? If there's not. And item 6 is filing information review.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Gene Browning, Assistant Registrar of Voters. I'm filling in for Virginia Bloom, who is ill today, so this is a very short report, but then again, very accurate. And it boils down to all of the candidates for the June election complied with the ordinance. Filings were on time and they were accurate. Other than that, there was one committee. There was a non-participating candidate committee in the 4th Soup District. That was Peter Foy's campaign. He did exceed the 75% expenditure limit. He notified us. We then in turn notified the rest of the candidates in that particular race, thereby removing, in accordance with the ordinance, their expenditure limit. So everything in that regard worked in accordance with the ordinance requirements.
Any questions or comments?
So the point that the other candidates were informed, the limit was no longer a limit.
Correct.
And it's 75%.
75% of the expenditure limit for that particular supervisorial district race. It would have been $119,250. That number is 75% of their expenditure limit, which is $159,000.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 7, ratify notification of a finding of no probable cause in case number 2005-01, candidate Lopez.
Yes, Chair Peck, at the last meeting of the commission, we brought to you information about the no probable cause finding in this particular case, but we failed to provide the required notice of no probable cause finding, so we're just bringing this forward now as kind of a cleanup, technical cleanup for you.
We've got it now, though.
Yes, right.
Okay.
You actually received the information at the last meeting, but we failed to actually bring forward the actual form that should have been filed.
Anyone have any comments or questions on this? This actually was from last month. If not, do we need a motion on this?
Yes.
We need a motion to ratify the finding of no probable cause by Mr. Lopez, Dr. Lopez, excuse me.
So moved.
Moved. Seconded. Any opposition? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Passed. Number 8, notice of no probable cause findings in case 2006-02 and 2006-03. I have a notification of comment from Mr. Williams on that as well. Before that, though, could I simply ask if there are any questions of the staff? We won't make a ruling until you're heard. Okay. Any questions or comments on this?
Chair Peck and Commission members, we are bringing to you today the notice of no probable cause finding on 2 cases. As you indicated, 2006 2002 Bennett and 2006-03 also Bennett. They are similar in that they were both filed by Mr. Carroll Dean Williams. The reviewing commissioner on both of these cases was Commissioner Renier, and there was no probable cause finding in both instances.
Before we hear from Mr. Williams, are there any questions and comments from any of the committee members? Ms. Pennington made the findings. Anybody have any questions of her or any questions generally before I call on Mr. Williams? Okay. You do? Oh, you? Yeah, I assume we've all read the letters.
Thank you. Carroll Dean Williams, a 61-year resident. Really, there wasn't two complaints. Physically, there was two. It's the same identical complaint.
We know that.
Okay.
It just was, the one was amplified.
Right. And I don't know if you heard the reason, or reason that I was given was that whatever review process there was, it's just taken on the face of the complaint. And that was very news to me, and it seems very odd of how a complaint would be processed. And what was interesting was the finding was different the second go-around than the first go-around. It had a completely different finding. Even though no probable cause was the result, the way it was processed was different. Now, what's more disturbing to me of when I read the ordinance to you, the first section of it was that elections, who just reported to this commission, told me that that was a violation. The CEO confirmed it was a violation. And all of a sudden, this commission says it's no violation. There's something wrong. There's something wrong. And I'm reading section 1273D. Every loan to a county candidate or elected office or his or her control shall be by written agreement. To me, that automatically makes it a public document, except this commission has interpreted as each county candidate or elective county officer shall maintain in his or her committee records a copy of the written loan agreement. The ruling was it's private. How do you verify that they have a written loan agreement when it's not public? This ordinance should make it public, a public document. The committee is filed with the election. I can pull you every committee that's filed with the elections, and that's what I was told. And I find it outrageous. Outrageous, based upon, I'm only educated by the Ventura Unified School District. I'm only educated with a public education, so maybe I can't read or understand. But I am totally appalled at the outcome based upon the ordinance. This is not fair, full and fair enforcement of all of its provisions. It is not that. And I'm going to be bringing this to the Board of Supervisors because this commission is working outside of the ordinance. So how much time do I have for item 10?
55 seconds.
Perfect.
54. Thank you very much. Anybody have any comments on this? Ms. Pennington, would you agree on what he's been saying here about that it's private, not public? News to me.
No, I think the ordinance is very clear and it specifically states that the loan document shall be maintained in his or her committee records. And as a result, we're simply adhering to Section 1273D. There is no question. And there was no proof or any facts within the complaint that supported the assertion
This loan document would not be in anybody's records other than the committee's?
That the loan documents would not be anywhere but the committee's records. There is no provision that they be provided elsewhere. And therefore,
Not the Fair Political Practices Act either?
there's reference to it. There's reference to it, but not a copy of it. The code section's very specific, and that's what I'm required to follow.
Okay. Any other comments? Any questions? And they did, the committee did file with the Elections Department? The fact that there was a loan?
The fact that there was a loan was filed, not the loan document itself.
But that wasn't required?
That's not required.
I see. Okay. I can understand now. I'm trying to understand your concern on the thing. I'm not sure there's a lot I can do about it if that's the way it is set up. And I think I want you to understand that we're not willfully trying to disregard the law. We're trying to follow it.
You do understand my concern?
I think, yeah, I do understand it, but I'm, like a lot of things, unfortunately, I'm not sure I can do anything about it on this committee.
Okay, I understand.
Okay. Do we want to entertain a motion to accept the finding of no cause? Is that a motion?
Yes.
Shake of the head?
Yes.
Okay. A second?
Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Any opposition? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Number 9 is Commission Operating Policies.
Yes, Chair Peck and commission members, at your last meeting.
These
Yes.
these are they. is that
These are
right?
they. You should actually have 2 versions of the operating policies.
We do.
One is a strikeout version, and then the second is what we call the clean version, which incorporates all of the suggested amendments that have been brought to you to date. And the very last version, which says revised May 2006, includes some things that came up at the meeting in March, as well as things that have come up since then. What I would call your attention to are the items that have come up since the meeting. The first being the proposed amendment to Article 3, Ethics Commission, Section 8, Complaints. What we have suggested is that the respondent be also included in the notification when a complaint has been filed with the commission. This is actually a request through the county executive office. So we have recommended...
Which item is this? This is Article 3,
Yes,
Section...
proposed amendments would be Article 3 under Ethics Commission, Section 8, Complaints, and specifically, we're looking at 8D.
Okay.
So if you look at Section 8D, complaints, we would recommend that D be amended to say, a copy of all complaints received by the commission, including those prepared by the clerk of the commission, will be forwarded to, and we've added here, the respondent and the district attorney by the clerk of the commission within 24 hours. So we're adding the individual who the complaint has been filed against to receive notification, immediate notification. And then in the following Section E, within 14 days after receipt of a complaint under this section, the commission shall notify in writing, and then strike person who made the complaint and substitute it with complainant and the respondent of the commission's determination of whether probable cause exists to believe that a violation occurred, and the action, if any, the commission has taken or plans to take on the complaint. And also added here, if no decision has been made within 14 days, the person who made the complaint, and again here, and the respondent shall be notified of the reasons for the delay and shall subsequently receive notifications as provided above. And actually, that last sentence was taken directly from the ordinance, but we added "and the respondent" to that.
Would that require a change in our internal procedures, because it would mean that a finding of no probable cause has to be made within 14 days?
Well, it currently exists that way. What this does, actually, it incorporates from the ordinance the opportunity to exceed the 14 days if both the respondent and the complainant are notified for the reasons of the delay. And as an example, we received, as you all know, a number of complaints just within the last week. And we've, of course, had to contact the chair of the commission to make assignments to our reviewing commissioners of those complaints. And oftentimes, we're not able to reach individual commissioners immediately. For example, Ms. Tomac
For example,
Ms. Tomac was visiting family and just returned last night. Fortunately, we will be giving her the information today for the case that she'll be looking at. But it's possible that the 14 days may not be enough for her once she takes a look at the complaint. And if she notifies staff to that effect, we can then notify the complainant and the respondent that we expect it to take a little bit longer than the 14 days.
So we're not going to be exceeding our own rules then?
No, we're actually in compliance with the ordinance. The ordinance allows that to take place.
The record should reflect Ms. Jones is now amongst the living. Thank you. Nice to have you here.
I very much apologize.
No, I didn't. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that the way it came out. Okay. Any other questions, any other explanations?
On that item, or?
Yes, on that item, 9, I think it is.
Yes. There's another recommended addition to the operating policies as well, and actually that's the new item that we're adding under the same section, and it's item H. And this item pertains to multiple filings of same or similar complaints by the same individual against the same respondent. And the language that's been proposed is contained in your packets. And if you have any questions about the process that we have suggested, I'm happy to answer it, or we can certainly adjust it to whatever the commission would prefer to have instead. Basically, what we've suggested here is that if a complainant refiles or files the same or similar complaint, that it contain sufficient new or additional evidence to merit further consideration by the commission, and that it would basically be the chair's determination as to whether or not a reviewing commissioner should be assigned. If the chair should determine that there's not enough new or additional evidence to move forward with another review, then that would be brought to the commission.
But it doesn't preclude somebody bringing the same complaint again, as long as there's sufficient new information.
Correct, exactly. No, it does not preclude that.
Okay. Any questions on any of this? Anything else?
No further
Okay.
items on here for this one.
Do we want, we're ready to adopt these, assuming we want to adopt them? Need a motion.
Shall we address each one individually?
I don't know. I'm perfectly willing to do it on one, but if 2 is more appropriate.
Well,
Is Robert's rules? Anybody? What?
You could take them all together.
As long as we know what we're doing, I would think 1 would be sufficient, because both both the operating policies that appear in our agenda here and the additional one in the revised agenda. That's all being included. Okay.
Okay, I move that the proposed amendments, D, E, and H of Article 3, Section 8 be adopted.
Moved and seconded. Any comments or opposition?
Mr. Chair? May I?
Yes.
I believe that at the prior meeting, the previous changes were discussed, but were not formally approved and adopted.
That was
So-
on a notice basis, was it not?
Right. Yeah, I believe so, or that further discussion on some of the
That's right, we sent it back to
matters
the board, didn't we?
to staff for some further work,
Yeah.
so that if the motion as it stands now would adopt these 3 specific changes, but would not adopt all of the other changes that are reflected in the version that has both the red and green print in it. I believe the red print were the changes that were made prior to the last meeting, but which were not formally approved.
We need to revise the motion and second.
Correct. If you want to adopt all of the changes that are reflected in here, both red and green, you would need to make the motion specifically address that. As it stands, you'd only be adopting the changes that are in green.
You remember we went over this
Just
over there.
For clarification, we did review and discuss those specific changes at our last meeting. Therefore, I move to incorporate all of the changes as recommended in red, and I don't know whether it would be necessary to read each and every one of them, each code section, to incorporate each of the changes that were discussed
You want to identify the document, that's probably easier.
in the operating procedures draft 3 that are highlighted in red, and as discussed earlier, those in green which reflect the changes to Article 3.
And reflecting the additional one that is in the amended or revised agenda.
And exactly, that would be Section 8, H.
Okay? We get it all? Okay. I think, yeah, okay. Moved and seconded. Any opposition? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Number 10 on the agenda is correspondence. We have a letter from Mr. Williams, which I assume everyone has seen. Mr. Williams, you want to be heard on this?
Yes.
Anyone have any comments before Mr. Williams? Okay, please.
Thank you. Geraldine Williams, 61-year resident. After hearing the comments from the one commissioner that reviewed my material, she has misspoken. There is nothing other than the committee records that says there is a loan. There is nothing else. And when the CEO office tells me that the ordinance says it has to be on file, I believe the CEO. When the elections department says, and this fell in a particular place, this original loan was taken out before the ordinance, but the committee has brought the ordinance the loan forward into the ordinance. So this commission has put itself in a precarious position of stating in writing that the CEO office doesn't know their A from the hole in the ground. and that the Elections Division doesn't know anything about the ordinance, and I sit here and witness the Election Division reporting to this board. That's where you have left this. And I believe this commission has failed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Any comments, questions? I gather there's a disagreement on the committee part with Mr. Williams' comments.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on the letter itself?
Chair Peck, may I comment?
Sure.
Carol Dean, I will tell you that there are times when I often don't even remember what I had for lunch the day before, but I will tell you that I will recall from our conversation that you came to the office and you asked me to tell you what section 1273D said, and I clearly recall reading that section to you, which says, each county candidate or elective county officer shall maintain in his or her committee's records a copy of the written loan agreement. That doesn't say elections department. And I know you've quoted me as saying that it has to reside in elections. I do not recall, nor do I think I said that. I know you came and said, I just came from elections, and they said that this loan was carried over, so therefore it meets the requirements of having to comply with the ordinance. I do recall you saying that, but I'm just clarifying for you that I do not recall ever telling you that that document had to reside in the elections office. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Anything on the letter itself from Mr. Williams? And specifically, obviously, whether or not it would, cause anyone to change their mind.
Since I was the reviewing commissioner, there is nothing in the letter that would cause me to change my finding of no probable cause.
Any other comments, questions? Then,
Can
yeah.
you please just have the commission receive and file the letter?
That's what I was going to do. We will receive and file it. There's no action actually that we can do, but I did want to clarify for you as to what was going on. Item number 11 is scheduling the next meeting and agenda items, and we've got several complaints that have been filed with us that we need to take into consideration, I know.
Correct. And I think at this point, if we could identify perhaps one or two dates that might work for the majority of the commission members. A lot of the timing issues will depend on when we receive back reports and probable cause determinations on some of the complaints that are pending.
Yeah.
But if perhaps we can identify some dates that seem to be better for the majority of the commission, at least we'll have something to work with.
What month are we talking about?
I would hope that we might have one of them that's currently pending complete before the end of this month. So if there are any dates in June that might be good for the commission, if we could hold a date open, and then also look in July for a possible date.
I'm going to be gone in
Perhaps
August, which is
early-
all I was saying.
Okay, yeah, perhaps early July, something like that.
I'm leaving the 30th of June, and I'm returning on the 4th of July. I'm going to Oregon.
Terrible day to be traveling.
Actually, we have one currently pending that's in review with one of our volunteer attorneys.
Okay.
But then we also have a number of them that are with different reviewing commissioners right now. Actually, all of you, with the exception of Judge Peck, have complaints that you're looking at.
Yeah. There's one advantage not being chairman.
Mine is due next Friday. Okay. Cal, are you wanting us to meet as soon as next week?
I don't see next week I don't think that would be feasible, because that would mean that we'd have the report in hand, and we'd have had, we need enough time for proper noticing.
And there's a
of the hearing.
notification requirement, which
Exactly.
we just passed.
Right. So maybe the last week of June, or perhaps the first week of July, second week of July, maybe we can look at tentatively holding a date.
What I would propose doing is, if it is possible, ideally, we should just pick a date. And if that turns out when everyone gets home to their calendar and they tell them, my gosh, I can't do it, then they can call you.
Right.
That's probably faster. I'm willing. What dates did you have in mind that would be good? First of all, is there any particular day that we should be? The board has this on Tuesday. We don't want to do Tuesday.
The Fridays seem to work the best for the commission
Okay.
members.
So Friday.
So maybe we could look at Friday, July 7th, holding on to that date.
I'll be gone.
Oh, will you be gone?
I was going to say there's maybe some people on vacation.
Oh, that's true, because of the 4th of
I
July.
can do the last, I can do the 23rd of June.
23rd of June is a Friday, and the 30th is a Friday.
23rd of June isn't enough time.
Yeah, I don't know that that would be enough time to get all the proper notification out.
What about
The
the 30th?
30th,
Would that work?
as a,
30th is cutting it close, though,
Oh,
Yeah.
30th of June.
of June. Yeah, that's cutting it close because we don't have all these reports even in yet.
I'm leaving very early in the
Oh,
morning.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That
we're,
would take us to July
can we do
14th.
the Friday after the 7th of July?
the 14th?
Yeah.
How does that?
I'll still be gone.
You'll still be gone,
I'll be
okay.
gone from the 7th until the 15th.
Okay, so you're gone
Ah.
7 to the 15. Well, we may want to look at holding the 30th, which is a Friday, although Jane would be the only one not available. We just need 3 for a quorum.
Okay, yeah, fine.
Well, but one of those reports is going to be Mrs. Tomax, isn't it?
Possibly. At this point, the reviewing commissioners are looking at complaints. If it proceeds on to the next stage, which would require an administrative hearing or coming back to the commission with no probable cause findings and so forth, we would have time to get that type of information ready. The one I'm thinking of, though, however, is we have a current complaint where probable cause was found, and it is out with a volunteer attorney under review and investigation, and that report, those findings may be ready.
That's the one that you're thinking of giving to me, or what?
No, this is already gone, it's out.
Different
It's out there pending. That's yours, yeah, that's yours, that's the one that's pending, yeah. So that one may be ready for some consideration by the.
You'd rather go on the 30th and
Just tentatively maybe hold that
and
date.
take what else, if we
Right.
can't get it all done by then, take another date in July.
Right, and then maybe we could look at something in July, for later in July.
Okay.
So,
In August, I'll be gone. Well,
Okay.
I'll be gone before August, won't I?
well, no, we're keeping you around until we get a new appointment, remember?
Oh, okay.
We're not going to let you get away that easy.
And just for the record, I will be gone from July 21st
Okay.
through August 6th.
Okay, 8/6, Georgia. Okay. Anybody else planning to be gone?
I'm actually gone next week, so it's.
Okay, that's okay. Next week would be way too soon for us to schedule another meeting.
Actually, I am also going to be gone let's see, I think it's the 15th or 16th of July to the 26th.
So most of July would be bad for you, Jane?
Well, it's only the 30th of, let's see, it's into the 4th of July that I would not be available.
Okay.
I'll be in Eugene, Oregon, and then, but the other one is Vermont, and so that's.
Well, let's just pick June 30th at 12:30 in the afternoon. And you've got these dates.
And this will be a
If we
tentative.
need, if we
Right.
need to, we can schedule another another meeting. That's what it looks like here.
Right, I'll contact each of you individually if it looks like the case that Kathy worked on is ready for administrative hearing by the commission.
Okay. If when you get home that turns out not to be okay for you, please let Ms. Tompkins know right away. Okay, June 30th,
Okay.
12:30 in the afternoon.
Okay. And that, again, we'll hold that tentative
Yeah.
till we see how much we have ready to be reviewed. Because we may have some no probable cause findings from all of the ones that are pending. So,
Okay.
okay.
Anything else that should come before the committee? If not, we will be in adjournment. Thank you very much.
Thank you.